Good thing Jalen Ramsey wasn't getting paid by the word, because he would have no money. This had to have been your surprise game of the weekend when you looked at scores. I don't think too many people saw this one coming against this Jaguars defense. How surprised were you that the Cowboys just blew out Jacksonville? Well,
you have to be surprised. And looking at not only at the final score, but throughout the game, Jacksonville basically was never in the game. And you can interview Jalen, and yes, because he's had some interviews and he had some spicy comments and everything, but Jaguars defense, they can only do so much. When we talk about teams, Nick asked me about the Jaguars, does the defense feel like they have to play a perfect game to win game? No, they don't have to play a perfect game, but they do realize, just like all the other great defenses that have led teams, that being Ray Lewis's Baltimore Ravens team, or any other great defense you want to go, there's always some conflict between the offense and defense, because the defense knows, no, they don't have to just do their job. They have to do more than their job. Offense started this game, take the opening kickoff, 3 and out. Next series, 3 and out. Next series, 7 plays. Next series, 3 and out. Halftime. Next series, 3 and out. 5 of the first 6 series, 3 and out. So you can ask Jalen as much as you want to. You asked about the slot receivers, but until they get a better offense, until they get more explosive, 65, they couldn't even run the ball. That's what Jacksonville can do. So there's a lot of questions going to this. There was no game more surprising than this, because Jacksonville is not a bad football team. They played an awful football game yesterday against the Dallas Cowboys.
I want to talk about the angle you approached there, which is it does feel to me, watching the Jags, that their defense loses an element of energy or swagger even if they're down early. Like when it was down 10-0, I felt watching the game, well, if the defense doesn't score, they're screwed because of who their offense is. And it felt like the defense knew the same thing. Like when that defense, if it's a close game, if it's one-score game where they have the lead, they're flying around. When they get down, because they know it is a 1 in 10 shot that their offense has a quick strike, that their offense goes and gets that touchdown right back, they seem to lose almost, I don't want to say motivation, because that's not the right word. They lose some of the belief that this is going to be our weekend. With that said, credit to the Cowboys for doing something I did not think they could do. Could they win? Sure. Could they score 40 points? Could they do it the way they did it? Could Dak have, we've been saying for a few weeks, man, they say Dak, Jerry Jones says wants to be a mix of Jared Goff and Cam. Dak's career high going into yesterday's game, rushing was less than 50 yards. They're all of a sudden yesterday, 80 yards on the ground. Zeke dominant on the ground. Dak didn't have some huge passing game. Aside from Cole Beasley, no receiver caught more than 1 pass. All our concerns about the Cowboys offense, about lack of weapons on the outside, they were still true yesterday, but they were so good on the ground. Their defense was dominant. Jalen Smith looks like an all-pro caliber player for the 2nd consecutive week. That this is the Cowboys' path to victory. They're not going to be dominating victories like this, but very good defense, running the ball with Zeke and Dak, and don't make mistakes on offense.
We criticized this Dallas team for their lack of creative play calling and their lack of taking chances in the last couple of weeks. What did you see that was different yesterday than we'd seen in the last couple of weeks?
Nothing. Offensive line played about the best game I've seen them play in 2 years. That's the reason why it was such a dominant performance by their quarterback and by Zeke running the ball, and their defense. They're a combination of a very, very physical defense, got after the quarterback, took them out of their running game. Jacksonville, how many big plays is Jacksonville going to make against you? So if you're talking about Dallas, like, you can talk about the names and stuff, but it's about their defense being able to shut them down and their offensive line punch Jacksonville's front 7 in the mouth, because it was not the passing game. They did score a couple of touchdowns in the red zone on short passes, but it was the offensive line. I thought the continuity and how they blocked and how they took over this game was the most important thing.
I thought the only thing that was different in this game, as opposed to what they'd done the previous 5 weeks, and I don't know what you think, C, is or whatever it was, where Dak had the option or it was designed for him to run the football. But they didn't take, you had said 8 shots downfield. Then you'd said 4 shots downfield.
Yeah,
then
well,
on
they
Friday,
didn't need it.
Right, then on Friday you had said 2 shots downfield, and I think that's what they took in this game. But they didn't, like you said, they didn't have to have it. They didn't have any huge plays in the passing game. What was their longest pass of the game? 27 yards? I think the one to Michael Gallup was their one big passing play. But they didn't have to, because they were getting seemingly 6 yards every time they ran the football, and they knew once you're up 17-0 on the Jags, if you don't make a mistake, you win that game.
So is the answer then let Dak run the ball a little bit more? Because is that the only difference? I mean, they blew this open.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson, didn't he say he wanted to run the ball? Did he enter the game with a punctured lung?
He had his bruised sternum, cracked rib, and a partially collapsed lung.
So no, don't run the ball. I mean, this was good for one game plan. That's not sustainable. He's not going to rush for 80 yards. His career high was 50 yards. Let's keep everything in proper perspective. If they need to play great defensive football, they need to control the line of scrimmage. They have 42 rushes. They are not going to lose a game where they have 40 rushes in a football game. So this is not an explosive Cowboy team. This is a path to victory led by their defense and by their offensive line. Let's keep it to what it really was. Let's not try to make it into something that it wasn't.
And on the Jags side of things, this is the problem in today's NFL with being a team that is all defense, very little offense. If the defense has a shaky quarter, you're sunk. Like you saw in the game we talked about to start with, the Chiefs offense had a shaky half, and they were able to get back in the game. If you're built like the Jags, last week against Kansas City, they're down 20-0 at half. That game's obviously over. This week against the Cowboys, down 24-0 at half. That game's obviously over. That defense has to play better to start these games to keep their offense in it.
Another shaky game from Blake Bortles.